Dan Brown's book, Angels and Demons, is an extraordinary work of fantasy. There are whole websites dedicated to showing all the errors the book contains in history, in geography, in science, and in religion. Not to mention the misspellings of foreign place names and street names. Now, I sort of sympathize with Brown because in public speaking, many times I fumble a historical date myself. I might say the sack of Jerusalem took place in 1066. 1066 was the Battle of Hastings. But when you're writing a book, you should have an encyclopedia next to you and make certain the dates and places you put in there are accurate. This book should be approached the same way someone would approach reading a Harry Potter novel. It's an alternate view of reality, but it's not tied to reality. The mistakes that concern me most are very fundamental. His notion that religion in general is totally opposed to science, and that Catholicism in particular is incompatible with science. Nothing could be further from the truth. The great Catholic universities around the world all have science departments, many of them doing cutting-edge research in every field of science. His history that makes the church look like it's unalterably opposed to science is also erroneous. One of the worst mistakes he makes is when he says the church killed thousands of scientists like Copernicus. Well, Copernicus was a priest in good standing with the church and died in the church's good graces of natural causes. He also says that Galileo was opposed to the church. Galileo had a difficult time, and certain church figures made certain that he was placed under house arrest, that he had to recant what he knew was true. It was horrible. But he didn't die. And he was a rare exception because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, Rome itself, and he got in trouble. So many other scientists from the Middle Ages until today have been priests and have always saw that the search for truth from observation of reality would still be compatible with the faith that made them whole. In his development of themes, it seems that Brown can't even get basic architectural points accurately. He doesn't know the difference between a church, a basilica, or a cathedral. It seems he's a little hazy on what the facade of a church is. And if you can't even describe a church building accurately, how could you possibly describe the inner workings of one of the world's great religions, Catholicism? His notion that a priest and a nun conceiving a child through in vitro fertilization and artificial insemination would be less objectionable to the church than a priest and a nun conceiving a child in the normal way is laughable. And why they would do that is totally preposterous. And so he reveals himself as someone who doesn't know what he is writing about. Basic things like the city of Rome. It's obvious that Brown had never been a Boy Scout, or at least never learned to read a compass. I was a Boy Scout second class, so I could read a compass. But his north, south, east, and west directions in Rome are more than a bit askewed. So if you read his book, don't read it with the intention of learning anything about the nature of Christianity or religion in general, or Catholicism in particular. If If you do read his book, do it as a work of complete fantasy fiction.